Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my caster build playthrough of Dark Souls Remastered. This is episode number 18, being recorded on Wednesday the 22nd of August. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, whenever it is you find yourself watching this. So it's finally time for us to get caught up on some of the dialogue here at Firelink. Not that we really have much of a choice in the matter, because as soon as we are trapped by Seath the Scaleless, Big Hat Logan will depart for the archives, so he's going to be leaving.
Well, fancy meeting you here. You did much for me up above. I am grateful. You know, I was thinking the gates, the old fortress. Was that your doing?
I can't remember whether this has an impact on his questline. I want to say it doesn't. But we are going to tell him the truth and say that yes, it was our doing.
Yes, I knew it. It seemed like an unlikely coincidence. Well, am I fortunate. This Knight of Catarina thanks you sincerely. Please, take this as a token of my gratitude.
Well, thank you kindly. You get an item if you answer yes. You get nothing if you answer no. That's the only impact. Well, thank you, Hot Pocket Remix. So we're joining the chat once more by Hot Pocket Remix, who is the modder who not only has a tremendous knowledge of the game and is very kindly sharing that knowledge with us in the chat during these recording sessions, but also is the modder who did the Randomizer mod, which is one of the most popular mods for Dark Souls on the PC. So yeah, it's tremendous stuff, and thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us. So he gave us Emit Force, Outland Miracle, foreign to the Way of White. Emit Shockwave, considered an alternative branching of Force, emits an expanding shockwave orb. So, in a similar vein to with all the branches of magic, I find it interesting that all the branches of magic, there's the mainstream orthodoxy, so to speak. So, in terms of sorcery, the idea is that Vinheim is the be-all, end-all of sorcery, but we've learned that through the likes of Witch Beatrice that there are other schools of thought concerning sorcery, and similarly that pyromancy is itself considered a form of sorcery, but it's considered unsavory by the likes of the Vinheim sorcerers. And similarly with miracles, we have miracles that are that are specifically said to be foreign to the Way of White. So, yeah, I find that interesting, because it does, of course, reflect the situation in the real world with Western modern science and other ways of knowing. Whereas it would be most truthful and most accurate to regard Western modern science as one way of knowing among many. The way that Western modern science is often regarded is such that it's not just one way of knowing among many, but it is a way of knowing that has transcended the idea of being a way of knowing. And it's very interesting to me that we see something very similar happening in this game with all the different forms of magic. Hunter M says, "Hi Hunter M. Everything in magic is highly malleable, since the forms of magic are themselves different manifestations of the same energy." Well said.
There you are. I'll be heading down below shortly. There's nothing worthwhile up above. No worries. Venturing is my life. I'm prepared for the worst.
Okay friends, stay safe and make sure you pack plenty of poison moss clumps, even though I know you won't. Because yeah, it's a poison swamp down there. You don't want to get caught without it.
There you are.
Oh, hello. I appreciate the attention, but you really should speak to Master Logan. That will certainly do you more good.
Have some self-confidence, friend. I'm sure you have plenty of stuff to say that's interesting and worthwhile.
Have you spoken to Master Logan? He is an accomplished scholar. The arts of sorcery would never have come this far without his contributions, and he has the nerve to go risking life and limb. What a stubborn old fellow.
Yeah, I guess not. Everything revolves around Master Logan, and it's hard to tell whether that is him genuinely fanboying out or whether it's part of his spy cover, essentially.
Goodbye then. Do stay safe.
Hot Pocket Remix says, in Dark Souls 1 Remastered, they changed the description of the Dust Crown Ring to say spells instead of sorcery, since it works for pyromancies and miracles as well. This correction reinforces the fact that all three broad schools of magic are ultimately spells. Indeed. It refers to them as additional magics, apparently, etc. I think that might be, at least in part, a reference to Demon Souls. Whereas in Demon Souls, magic was referred to broadly as the soul arts. And similarly, in historical terms, when you're looking at something like what we refer to today as science, what might back then have been referred to as natural philosophy. Oh, the short description says spells. Touché. Oh, no, it says extra magic castings, but still, yeah, your point is well made nevertheless. So I think that to a degree it's a reference to the soul arts and Demon Souls, but it's also probably a reference to science being broadly considered part of the arts, or natural philosophy in historical terms. I missed a message here. Oh, from Tolrag. People in this world don't care about what you actually achieve and the good you do with your magic, but rather care about what kind of magic you are using. To someone from Vinheim, a pyromancer will always be considered worthless regardless of what he does with it. Yeah, very well said.
Hello there. I was expecting you. As promised, I will share my sorceries. I'm afraid that you are unable to learn sorcery. The basic framework, you see, it cannot be taught. Oh, do not fret. Life isn't all about sorcery. You will find your own way. Don't frown with regret. Peer forward, with your head high.
I'm pretty sure our intelligence needs to be 11. But that's actually fine. We might miss a couple lines of dialogue here, but I'm reasonably certain that after we free him in the Duke's Archive, he'll sell us spells anyway.
Hello there. Glad to see you alive.
Oh, I hate the Vinheim sorcerers. I really do. Okay, let's head over to Anor Londo. The Dark Souls Trilogy soundtrack on vinyl. That's awesome. It's crazy how the vinyl resurgence that started, like 10 or 15 years ago is still going. I think that's really, really cool. Hi, friend.
So you have received a revelation. Very auspicious. I hope for the best. I pray that through you, her wish will be granted.
Yeah, Rickard's a really interesting case, and I feel bad for Rickard because I almost always forget him. Because it really wasn't until something like 80 hours of having played Dark Souls 1 that I actually discovered that there was a blacksmith there.
Have you heard of Seath the Scaleless? In legend, he turned against the ancient dragons. He became Lord Gwyn's confidant, was granted dukedom, and was allowed to pursue his research. At the Regal Archives, he immersed himself in research on scales of immortality, the one thing that he did not have. But his very research drove him mad. The Archives became a dungeon, a place for sinister experiments. Now, nobody dares even approach the Duke's forbidden archives. It looms over this land high atop the mountain. But I should warn against even an approach.
She warns against even approach.
If you require rest, now is the time. That is, after all, what the bonfire is for.
Okay, see you later, friend. The Dark Souls 2 soundtrack is so much better than I noticed before, and on vinyl it sounds so much more spooky and atmospheric. Yeah, I feel like with pretty much all of the music in the Souls games, at least for me, just because I've always played the Souls games on a really crappy TV with really poor speakers, that it's generally not until I'm doing an episode of Let's Talk Lore or something where we're talking about the music where I notice things. Or, alternatively, in cases such as this one, where I'm reasonably certain it was Illusory Wall who made a post about this, and that's where I learned that this was a thing. But whomever it was attuned me to the fact that if you listen real closely here, you can hear whispering sounds, like the sounds of people whispering, or spirits or something, disturbed people. And it's rather unsettling. I was going to say, I don't know how well you are all going to be able to hear that in the chat, Pacino, but yeah, I guess you did. I will certainly enhance that for the viewers on YouTube. And the reason we don't have to worry about the boars right here is that we took care of them when we were going to get the broken pendant before we went into the DLC. Hot Pocket Remix says, one thing someone mentioned to me recently is that Pinwheel's theme is right after Capra's on the original soundtrack, which is maybe a hint that Pinwheel was intended to be fought after Rhea and friends moved down to the Tomb of the Giants. I don't know that that's something I ever would have noticed had I not seen someone else point it out, so I certainly can't take credit for that, but it is very interesting, I think. I think it would make sense that Pinwheel's theme is right after Capra's on the OST, because when you defeat the Capra demon, that's when all of the friends show up at Firelink and get ready to go down into the Tomb of the Giants. They're stored in a 3-channel format. I should separate them. They maybe use one of the 3 channels depending on the area. That would be tremendous. I'd be very interested in hearing what you come up with. Yeah, you and me both, Pacino. I have likewise beat this game many times, and I still learn new things every time I play it, especially when playing on stream. And for YouTube as well. Most audio extractors rip them out and interleave the tracks, and it sounds like a garbled mess. Yeah, there are tools you can use to do stuff like that, but yeah, it generally... I'm not sure what the phrase exactly is. Something like the cure being worse than the symptoms or something like that. I think that often applies when it comes to audio. Which is why, again, not to harp on this, because I talked about this at length in the previous episode. The fact that... Uh-oh, these guys are buffed. The fact that I cleaned out the inside of my PS4 has been a tremendous boon in terms of not needing to worry about removing noise from the background of my commentary track. The Channeler's Chant is a reverse clip of Lord Bridiel talking from Demon Souls. That is actually hilarious. I presume it's not him screaming. Channeler doesn't have enormous poison resistance, because that was 2 arrows and he's already poisoned. The one that blew my mind was an episode you did, or maybe someone else, where they pointed out that there there was a disguised ledge next to the Hollow Dragon in the Valley of the Drakes. Yeah, that was probably me, but I saw that on a Dark Souls 1 video that was done by Franz, a German spy. Well, I shouldn't say it was probably me. It might have been me, because I showed that off in, I think it was my casual playthrough. Because until Franz and the Bitterbits people pointed out that ledge, I had never seen it either. And I think that just goes to show the extent to which, much like everyone can have a valid interpretation that is unique of the story in these games when compared to other players, because everyone comes at these games from a unique embodied perspective. And the game is designed in such a manner that allows you to, it provides that interpretive flexibility. But likewise, it also, you know, our unique embodied perspectives and our unique ways of doing things I wonder what kind of wisdom is stored in this book right here. That's tremendous. Our unique way of doing things, our unique embodied perspectives, are also reflected in the way that we actually traverse the game worlds, such that things that one person will have noticed and will take entirely for granted, another person might not, because of the subtle differences in how they traverse the game world and geography of it. Well, thank you. Thank you, Hot Pocket Remix. So this is the elevator which leads up to the Chamber of Seath. And this is, of course, also where, if you have more patience and skill than I do, you can hop down the elevator, you pull the lever, and then you roll onto this ledge here, and then you can jump off, thereby skipping the mandatory death here. But I've only been able to do it like once or twice, and yeah, I'm not in the mood to die over and over again trying to do it, so we're just going to ignore that for now. But that is something you can do. And we have an armor crystal friend here, armored crystal friend. No idea what the deal is with that, the Crystal Knight. Again, perhaps worth noting that Domn Hall of Xena sells the crystal set before you even come to the Duke's Archives, which suggests that Domn Hall of Xena beat us to the Duke's Archives, whereas generally NPCs follow the player character. Domn Hall of Xena seems to go before us in many instances. So it wouldn't be unreasonable, I don't think, to just sort of think of Domn Hall as existing in some ways outside of the game world, because it's really hard, at least from my perspective, to make sense of him in the game world. It's his line where he says, "I must retrieve an article from my corpse. They snipped it in a weird place so the bracketed parts aren't in it." So it just says, "Retrieve an article from my core." Unfortunately, the mysterious crystal NPC's internal name is Crystal Knight, which isn't very helpful lore-wise. Yeah, I figured as much. Just one of Seath's many minions, I suppose. So something else that Hot Pocket Remix noted for us before we started, which is something I was aware of, but I'm glad that he reminded me to show this off, is the fact that unlike every other fog gate in the game, this fog gate can be entered and exited. You can enter and exit his boss room, which Makes sense if you enter the boss room and, you realize that you can't harm the boss. I think this is just FromSoft giving you an escape valve. Ooh, if you seek guidance in this room, there's a developer message that says try resignation, which is an extremely obscure hint that you must die here. Yeah, try just resigning yourself to your fate, that you're going to die here. It's okay, because everywhere else in the game you're learning that you need to avoid death, insofar as you're not dying to learn how to keep going. Because this is an encounter which breaks the pedagogical approach, so to speak, in the sense that everywhere else in the game, you die and you're supposed to learn from your death so that you can come back and do it again and do it better. But here, there's nothing to learn from, because if you can't kill the enemy, if his health is constantly regenerating, what can you learn from dying? So it's an interesting choice of message where they just say try resignation. Anyway, let's talk crystals. In Kingsfield lore, crystals held all magic. You have to shatter magic shards to get your magic spells. Interesting. I have to watch some more of Theomeni's. I think you're doing, are you doing Kingsfield 4 right now? Am I remembering that correctly? You're gonna have to watch some more of that on YouTube. And it makes the most sense as Seath is a huge Kingsfield reference. So yeah, we might as well let Seath kill us. We have a sacrifice ring on so that we can save our souls. But let's go to the Duke's Prison. The new spinoff from Let's Talk Lore, which is Theomeni's new series, Let's Talk Crystals. I actually don't want to be cursed here, but Ring of Sacrifice shattered. So I'm going to assume that even before we touch the bonfire, using a homeward bone here would just bring us back to the exact same place. So let's test that. Indeed. And that's interesting because unlike the Painted World, so if you go into the Painted World and you're standing on the bridge, you use a homeward bone immediately, it will bring you back to the last bonfire. So you're only bound to the bonfire in the Painted World by sitting at it, whereas here in the Duke's Prison, you're bound to the bonfire without ever even lighting it. You can't go, you can't leave, you can't warp away from here. Yes, your respawn point is instantly set. Notice that your SS won't refill, though. You must sit there to get the refill. Oh, touche. So what is this bug in the prison? We have the key. Pacino, I don't know if you've been to the Duke's Archive in your co-op playthrough yet, but for me, in guiding people through Dark Souls for the first time, and mind you, this was on the 360, so before share play, this was probably the most frustrating part to try and guide a new player through. Hello, Michaela. This is when the bad mood music plays. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this music. So this manserpent here seems to be, like, they both seem to be going to sound the alarm, so to speak. But I'm reasonably certain that when they get to the top, they just sort of stand there, like jackasses. This isn't the bug I was thinking of, but because of the way the scripting works, if you homeward bone, it'll oh, interesting. Will that also disable the aggro of the Pizakas? So we just got a Manserpent Greatsword. Yeah, I can imagine, Aegon. I get lost just playing on my most times I pass through, yeah. Well, good luck when you do get there. It's not tremendously fun. I believe they're still angry at you. Okay, so it just helps us deal with the annoyance factor more than anything. Oh, our friends have arrived. Hello. I'm sorry, ladies. So the bug is as follows. You can access the bonfire from outside the cell by pressing up against the bars. Try using the warp menu while doing so. Okay, now I'm intrigued by this. That is fascinating. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to go... Since we already killed half the Pizakas, I think they're called. I keep wanting to call them Picasas, but yeah, we will have to test that out. Thank you, Hot Pocket Remix. I appreciate that, friend. But yeah, Logan, in spite of the fact that he's in prison here, doesn't seem all that bothered by the fact that all of these women were turned into these abominations by Seath. And that though most of them are really, really far gone, these two maidens in particular, maidens of Guinevere, we'll have a listen to them in a second. Oh, the monsters are coming up the... So you're talking about the man-serpents. Oh! That actually makes sense. Wow, so they're scared even of the man... Wow, okay. That's not something I had ever considered. This single-bladed, blood-stained greatsword is the choice weapon of the slithering serpent men of Sen's Fortress. An ordinary human will have great difficulty swinging this heavy beast effectively. And we also picked up a couple of keys. Archive Tower Cell Key. Key to the cell of the Duke's Archive Tower. The Archive Tower, once a trove of precious tomes and letters, became a prison after the onset of Seath's madness. The serpent men who guard the prison know not the value of what they hide. In the basement of the tower are the writhing mistakes of the terrifying experiments which were conducted here. Perhaps the serpent men were careless, for there are several keys scattered about which fit Archive Tower cells. I should see if there's a particular event that makes the man-serpents flee. Maybe it has a name. That would be very interesting. I agree 100%, Michaela. Heartbreaking, but also instructive in terms of... You know, again, the idea that... No, serpent friends! That wasn't very friendly at all. Oh... I deserve that. So, I don't feel bad, but it was stupid. All I needed was to use Black Flame, and it would have been fine. Okay, so we're not hearing the music, but they're still running away anyway. Okay, so they get to the top. And then... What are you doing, friends? Like... What is happening? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess they just chill up there? I think the music shutting off is essentially a programming error. The scripts here have evidence of being rushed. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest, knowing what we know about... Oh. About not only how Dark Souls 1 was unfinished, but how literally every single one of the Souls games is, to some degree, only partially finished. But it's hard to say to what extent that is something that, and we have talked about this previously on the channel, but it is hard to say to what extent that is something that is an issue for FromSoft specifically, or if that is just a game design thing more generally. I'm inclined to lean towards the latter, but I think there is probably something about FromSoft's generative approach to game design that lends itself especially to coming up with lots of ideas and then having to scrap lots of them before the release of a game. Not in a manner similar to, say, Bungie with the Destiny games, where they specifically take things out of the game to repackage it and sell it later as DLC. But just a consequence of, you know, the specific way that they actually design games. And the amount of latitude that they're given as a studio, as individual game designers too. Where did you come from, friend? The name used internally is something like Pisasha, which is interesting. I can't open the wiki article now, but would you mind giving me a brief synopsis of what it might contain? FromSoft is usually a bit more ambitious than they have time. It happens all the time, indeed, in every game. And Theomany is our resident FromSoft expert. Oh, the Dark Souls box set is coming a day after your birthday, Michaela. Well, they were thinking of you, but clearly not thinking of the family of the wallets of your loved ones, but that's okay. I'm sure they won't mind. Come over here, friend, please. This is really curious, because only these two are supposed to actually be docile. But this one doesn't appear to want to leave their side at all. Or that could just be the way they are by default before you actually put on the music. But they just tend not to leave. But now that the music is off, let's see what Logan has to say for himself.
Hello again. What a chance meeting this is. Alas, I'm imprisoned once again. I don't suppose you could stage me a getaway. The archives. Such a storehouse of knowledge. So close, but just out of reach. The thought offends me so I could simply die. As a student of the arts, you understand me, yeah?
Okay, I found the name of the Man-Serpent event. Serpents Evacuate. That is tremendous. It really does look like they are evacuating. Until they get to the top and they realize, wait a second. You know, this isn't working. I'm sorry, friends. Bountiful sunlight and soothing sunlight. Special miracle granted to the maidens of Guinevere, Princess of the Sun. Gradual HP restoration for self and vicinity. The miracles of Guinevere, the princess cherished by all, grant their blessings to a great many warriors. Special miracle granted to the maidens of Guinevere, Princess of the Sun. Restores high HP for self and vicinity. The miracles of Guinevere, the princess cherished by all, grant their blessing to a great many warriors. From a gameplay perspective, they can't open the door since that would ruin the point of being trapped in the prison, but also they know Picassos can't climb ladders. And the serpents... Okay, hold on. Actually, I should focus here before so that we don't die again. Come on, friends. Oh, that'll never get old. Archive Tower Giant Door Key. But also they know Pizzacas can't climb ladders. The serpents above the Pizzacas near the mechanism don't flee for that reason. Yeah, well, because they're safe. Touché. Again, all things, even though we've talked about this area in more than one playthrough I've done, I am learning new things and getting a new perspective on. So we're going to have to come back for Logan. I don't think we can get the rest of his dialogue until we do. Let's go try this glitch that Hot Pocket Remix has informed us about. I do wonder about what this mechanism is all about in the middle here. I presume it's an elevator of some sort that is meant to permit people to get at the texts that are stored on these levels that don't have walkways attached to them, but that it's since fallen into disrepair after Seath went mad. It is very rusty. Jinx indeed, Pacino. That would be my guess, because you know, Seath is large and he can fly, but I don't know how anyone else is going to access most of these tomes if they're not, again, on a level where there's a walkway attached to it. But yeah, they're not in tremendous shape. But it does say that after Seath went mad, this place just essentially became a prison, as opposed to, you know, storehouse of knowledge. So this one is opened by the extra key. I think this is just a soul item. Yeah. There's more of the rusted mechanism later on in the room after you pull the lever to make a staircase appear. So it's just like the pieces of it are just all over the place then. Okay, so you can rest at the bonfire here. Are you serious? That is incredible. So wait, if we warp, we can come back here with a homeward bone though, right? Yeah, Rhea, everyone got it. Oh, that is incredible. Thank you for explaining, Hot Pocket. Oh, that is so funny. But it does have the same message as the one... And... It does have the same message as the one in the Painted World. That is tremendous. Okay, this area is far more broken than I ever had any idea. It was. Impressively broken, really. That I wonder. I imagine that's probably something that was there, but that we're only just sort of seeing it now. Because we have someone who knows these things in the chat. Basically, the game uses the same code for all bonfires, so it checks if you're in that cell or in the Painted World, and if so, you can't use the bonfire. That is amazing. Okay, I have died making this leap before, or roll, I guess. Whew. I love that the boss soul exploit was fixed, and then an exploit for the exploit came out 3 days later. This I did not know. Okay, so we got the Maiden set and the Seance Ring. So you can dupe souls again? Is that what you're telling me? Because that would be tremendous. White Seance Ring, a divine ring entrusted to the head bishop of the Way of White, an apostle to Allfather Lloyd, uncle to Lord Gwyn. It grants additional attunement slots. The head bishop of the Way of White is the guardian of law and caste, and one of the great royals of Thorolund. So presumably she's the daughter of the head bishop then, of the Way of White, which is, yeah, we knew that she was a person of great importance before she became undead, but wow, that's pretty crazy. White robe worn by traveling maidens. It is part of their formal attire, regardless of rank. It is soft and well made, but does not offer much in the way of defense, making it ill-suited to use in battle. So worthy of note that this is basically the same set that Anastasia of Astora has on, but for Anastasia of Astora, it's not a maiden skirt, it's a bloodstained skirt. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus. You can just punch a hollow over and over again and do... Oh, okay. That is very interesting. Alright. Yeah, the channelers will talk about that as we head to the Crystal Caves. Okay, so that was the first thing we had to deal with here. Oh, stop it. You guys being so much stronger than I give credit for. So we fell to our death, but my capture card froze. So you won't be able to see, conveniently enough for me falling to my death pathetically. Or at least you won't. If it doesn't happen again, I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Conspiracy, yep. I didn't do that on purpose. What are you talking about? Okay, let's try again. I think last time I rolled, so this time I'm just going to walk off. That's better. Okay, so we're looking for the cell that has Rhea in it. Oh, did you talk to her in the parish? You need to... Oh. Well, fancy that, Hot Pocket Remix, because someone taught me how to warp out of here. So let's go do that. That is so bad. I can't believe I never noticed that before. Dr. Lam Pagliacci. I hope you're having a fantastic day as well, friend. Okay, let's go buy some miracles that we're never going to use. I didn't realize that in order to advance her questline, you needed to buy all of her miracles, but I suppose that makes sense. Yep, she's still here. Hi, friend.
I was wondering when you might return. It is a great relief to see you. Now let us speak of miracles.
Okay, we should have enough souls for all this. Yep. So we got Heal, Great Heal Excerpt, Homeward, Force, Great Heal, Wrath of the Gods, Seek Guidance, and Magic Barrier.
Then be safe. Farewell, Rhea Nox.
Thank you for the host, Michaela. Okay, that is a very handy trick. Very handy trick that I wish I'd known years ago. Okay, I want to say she's in just one of these normal cells here. So as before, let's just do process of elimination. Make our way down the stairs. And if she's not in one of these, then we'll know that we need to go back up. And, oh no. No, friend. That hurts. Someone in the chat earlier said... that her being murdered by Petrus is actually like her happy ending. Oh no! Oh, that is dreadful. Sorry, friend. 7 humanity. Wow. Ivory Talisman, medium for casting miracles of the gods. Ivory talismans are granted only to female clerics, and their value is affected dramatically by their owner's faith. Rhea is here because she probably gets kidnapped by channelers. She's going to be experimented on and probably turned into a Pizaka without your intervention. But I presume that she's probably already seen some horrors here, or we're just left to imagine what happened to her and what is yet to happen to her. Well, because you can have humanity but no will to use it, right? Like, if you don't have any will to use it... I've talked about that before. The difference between capital H hollowing and lowercase. That you can be a hollow, lowercase hollow, without being hollow. So we're reversing our hollowing, but that's just mechanical, as opposed to existential. I don't know that she got cursed, but like the conversation we just had with her, she basically was absolving Petrus of guilt for being a prick. That, you know, no wonder Petrus left me, because I suck. Like, that's, you know, it doesn't really sound like a person who has the will to go on. Yeah, Hargrada, that's very well said. She lost all hope and purpose. She's trapped in a prison, and she has taught someone everything she knows. Her companions were murdered because of her. So yeah, she's both lost all hope and has no purpose. So a double whammy, really, to make her go hollow. So it's really no surprise that she went hollow. Archive Tower Giant Door Key. Key to the giant door leading out from the uppermost floor of the Archive Tower, which now serves as a prison. The key's design resembles not the key of a prison. Indeed, the tower was once no prison at all, but a trove of precious tomes. Oh, crap. I'll have to show off the door in the sky. The door in the sky is still there. Praise it. So I presume that at some point the developers were building the map, building the area, like, okay, let's just take this door, move this to the side for a second, and then they just forgot and never went back to move it back where it needs to go. But it's amazing to me that, again, this is one of those things that they decided not to fix, provided that they actually knew where it was. But in Bloodborne, there's a floating statue in Old Yarnum. So, yeah, something that happens. In one of my mods for the game, I moved a chest into the floor to get it out of the way so that I could replace it with a mimic. Yep. And it's easy to lose track. The starting gift pendant goes to that door. That's Suggestion I've never heard before, Blaze Monkey 4. That may very well be the case. We should start a new playthrough with the penny. Just to test that. It floats up. You just float up into the air and oh my god, we made it. Okay, let's leave a message here. Or hidden path ahead. Okay, we got invaded by something energy. Hidden path? This is not going to end well, I presume. Oh, hello.
Hello.
This person is going to obliterate me. Or not. I know you're buff, friend, but come on. Oh, that was pathetic. Person didn't even need to do anything. Icon of Astora. Okay, that's fine because now we won't be in human form. Probably should have just died closer to where we were, but that's okay. All right. There are our souls. Beautiful. So I think we need to head back up. Or do we? I used to know this path so well because I just ran through it every time. Pretty sure it's this way. So these, I want to say that they're called Crystal Hollows. Does anyone have any thoughts on these enemies? Because I've never really been able to make any sense of them, and the items that they drop don't really give us any clues either. So they drop the kite shield, which is just a generic shield. No, fudge. Stop it. No playthrough stuff, no looking at item descriptions. You will not have any fun while the Crystal Hollows are about. I assume they were soldiers of Seath who went hollow. Yeah, that's more or less what I figured. And again, I guess there's really not all that much to go on beyond that. Probably not all that surprising that their eyes are red. Because that's a feature of hollows that we see more generally in the world, but also... But also, as we learn in Dark Souls 3 at least, that it indicates some sort of spiritual impurity. Which not terribly surprising given Seath and everything that is happening here if they're doing his bidding. if we look at them as just soldiers or servants of Seath who went hollow, then again it makes sense that the Crystal Knight is just, you know, the highest of Seath's knights, the best of his knights. Ooh, that hurts. Oh no! Get wrecked. Strong magic shield. Sorcery which improves upon magic shield. High magic augmentation, left shield. At Vinheim Dragon School, only magic swordsmen on special orders are allowed to learn this spell, which grants temporary strength to great shields. And yeah, we will find another version of magic shield down in Ash Lake. I think the reason why Bloodborne's lore seems like it's so much better than that of Dark Souls is that it's self-contained. There really is something to be said for having a game and a story that is just self-contained. Oh, Havoc, physics engine. I hate this guy, but at least I can actually take him out this time. Oh no! 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 Why did I even bother? We were right there. We were right there. We were right there. We did it. And now we're back in the prison again. Part of my language, it took forever. Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Note to self, don't lock on. There we go. Maybe Theomany. I got a slab off of a Dark Wraith as well, I think. At least I seem to recall that happening when farming chunks. Which happened when I was playing on the 360, but very rarely. No, we actually didn't need to do that, because we can just warp here from Firelink. Where we have 20 Estus, so let's actually do that. But now, of course, we're almost certain to be invaded. But let's head, we need to get the key over here. And then head over to free Big Hat Logan. It is so dark in here. I don't remember it being nearly this dark in here previously. Here's the Channeler set. Six-eyed Helm of the Channelers. Helm of the Channelers, sorcerers that serve Seath the Scaleless. The 6 eyes arranged in 2 vertical columns compensate for Seath's lack of sight. The heaviest of protective gear for sorcerers and imbued with magic. Robe of the Channelers, sorcerers that serve Seath the Scaleless. Even after the onset of Seath's madness, the Snatchers, as they were often called, ventured to far lands to find suitable human specimens. The heaviest of protective gear for sorcerers and imbued with magic. Yeah, I'd never made the connection between the Channelers and the Snatchers from Bloodborne, but that makes sense. So we have the Mimic here. Has an enchanted falchion. I don't know if... I'm pretty sure it's just the same item description as a normal falchion, which doesn't inflict bleed, but the item description leads you to believe that it does. Unless that was wiped out with the infusion for enchanted, but I don't think it was. Crystal Ember. Crystal Ember, created by Seath the Scaleless. Handled only by the giant god's blacksmith. Crystal weapons are powerful but brittle and cannot be repaired once broken. So we got Profanity Energy back for another invasion. This time we'll actually be able to have a nice duel, though. There they are.
Hello.
Hello. We're gonna get our butt kicked again. We won our first PvP duel of the entire playthrough. Yeah, sweetie! Wow, I cannot believe it. That person had like no HP whatsoever.
Very good.
Alright, what's up? I did not expect that whatsoever. That black flame, though, did some serious damage. So we need this key here. Key to the giant cell below the Duke's Archive Tower. The giant cell once imprisoned countless maidens, but is now empty, save for a few key persons. They struggle to uphold their sanity as the horde of mistakes writhe at a fearfully close proximity. So again, we see once more the considerable influence that the story of Dark Souls had on the likes of Bloodborne, in that the maidens are essentially the living failures. Int is not a measurement of how smart you are. Well, that's true in reality as well, to be fair. In that most people equate something like IQ with intelligence. But what IQ measures is less intelligence, because intelligence is very poorly defined as a concept to begin with. And so what's being measured is not so much intelligence as much as it is cultural awareness. So we actually, in reality, have a very poor understanding of what intelligence actually is, how it should be measured, and in general, more trying to... Like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure that that's something that actually matters. Because really, it depends on, in no small part, on what it is you value. Because if you value certain types of knowledge over others, like, you're still making a value judgment there.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm saved. That makes twice. I must be sure to repay you. I will visit the archives. If I discover any new spells, I shall share them with you. Prepare to be impressed by the onward march of sorcery. Hello. Don't mind me. Go on ahead. I'll head out soon. I wish to lay down my plans before I visit the archives.
Okay. Again, another instance in which the homeward boning animation that happens in Dark Souls 3 is actually preferable to him just sitting here in the cell like a jackass waiting for someone to come close the door again. Soul of the Long-Lost Firekeeper. Each Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire and a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. Her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity and can boost the power of precious Estus flasks. It can be used to gain humanity and restore HP at the cost of losing the Firekeeper soul to reinforce the Estus flask. So, as with the other generic corpse pickup Firekeeper souls, this one has the same description. The ones that drop from actual Firekeepers have unique descriptions, on the other hand. Think about how sorcerers seem to be able to sense your int stat just from a glance. A video gamey thing, obviously, but it works. And consider the way Logan strips naked to be more like a dragon. More masterful of reality by some people's belief by becoming a dragon. So, something very interesting about that Miyazaki has said, at least I seem to recall Miyazaki saying this, that the plan was to actually have him strip entirely naked, to be wearing no clothes when we find him later. But there was a fear that we might not recognize who it is if he didn't have his hat on. So that's why he has only his hat on and he's naked otherwise. So yeah, well said, Michaela. That's an intriguing point, and it ties into the fact that Logan doesn't even want to be recognizable underneath his hat. It's you know, an actual demonstration of the fact that Miyazaki was kind of right. As well as for that specific lore point. So that's really interesting. I never made that connection, actually. Looking quite fancy there, friend. Most people drop from the staircase as it's spinning. But what if I told you there's a better way? Let's hear it. Okay. Yeah, it's down there. So you rotate the staircase above that so that its lower side is down closer to the Avalon. Then walk around on the balcony on that lower side. That's step one. So like so. Step one complete. Now rotate the stairs. When they finish moving, reload the game. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Well, it never saves your footing when you're on a temporary, like a place that can be, ground that can be shifted. So now we just walk off? Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh, that's tremendous. Thank you, Hot Pocket Remix. That is so much easier. Oh, no. No! Are you kidding? Yeah. Touche, Pacino. The danger is your souls may be on the bookshelf. I somehow imagine they'll probably be where we reloaded. Oh, no, you're right. They are indeed on the bookshelf. That's okay. Yes. Repeating crossbow cherished by the weapon craftsman Idis. Its elaborate design makes it closer to a work of art than a weapon. Intricate mechanism makes heavy damage possible through triple shot firing of bolts, but in fact each bolt inflicts less damage. Presumably it means less damage than the one that came before it. Or each successive bolt inflicts less damage. Let's go speak with Big Hat Logan.
Hello there. I was expecting you. This place is truly magnificent, more than expected even. As promised, I shall share the new sorceries with you, and the secret of Seath's immortality. Ah, the secret of Seath's immortality. If you have fought him and were in prison, you must know that Seath is a true undead, different from ourselves. His wounds close promptly, and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death. It is an effect of the primordial crystal, a sacred treasure pillaged by Seath when he turned upon the ancient dragons. So only by destroying the primordial crystal can you so much as scratch his hide. And it so happens the primordial crystal is in the inner garden of these very archives, the Crystal Forest.
Okay, I've been referring to the area outside as like the entrance to the Crystal Caves or the Crystal Garden, but he calls it the Crystal Forest. So there's the Duke's Archives, the Duke's Archives Prison, the Crystal Forest, and the Crystal Caves.
The tomes stored in these archives are truly magnificent, a great pool of knowledge, the fruits of superior wisdom and an unquenchable desire for the truth. Some would say Seath had an unsound fixation, but his work is a beautiful, invaluable resource. All progress demands sacrifice, and I certainly bear no antipathy for that wonderful, scaleless beast.
So again, the idea that all progress demands sacrifice, which is demonstrably untrue if you look at the history of research ethics in our world. It was said when research ethics first started becoming a thing, and scientists and medical doctors doing research were going to be mandated to get patients' permission when doing experiments on them without their knowledge. And one medical doctor or medical researcher proclaimed that the year in which those regulations came into play was the year that all scientific progress would cease. That year was something like 1970 or 1980. And I think we all know that medical progress did not cease in 1970 or 1980. So demonstrably untrue, the idea that all progress demands sacrifice. So he has Great Soul Arrow, sorcery which improves upon Soul Arrow, fires strong Soul Arrow. At the Vinheim Dragon School, the acquisition of this spell marks an apprentice's coronation as a sorcerer. Heavy Soul Arrow, a more powerful but also slower sorcery, difficult to use due to a long cooldown and a limitation on the number of castings. Great Heavy Soul Arrow, as difficult to use as Heavy Soul Arrow, but powerful enough to make it well worth it, adored by certain sorcerers. Homing Soul Mass, sorcery developed by Big Hat Logan, fire homing Soul Mass. Life originates in the soul, no wonder the Soul Mass draws towards it. This sorcery is a window into Seeker Logan's methods. So these spells are all spells that we would have been able to get from him at Firelink had we invested an additional point into intelligence. Soul Spear, sorcery developed by Big Hat Logan, fire-piercing Soul Spear. A symbol of Logan's strength, the Soul Spear is referenced repeatedly in the legends, and is said to be on par with Lord Gwyn's lightning. Magic Weapon, sorcery for casters who wield swords. Magic Augmentation, right weapon. The power of the magic swordsman of Vinheim is predicated upon this and Magic Shield. Many warriors learn sorcery just for this. That's true, I think, in the context of the game, the gameplay for it as well. The mechanics that, if your intelligence is 10, might as well invest. Or, yeah, you wouldn't even need to invest. Just need enough to use a catalyst, and you're good. Although I think the catalysts are all a minimum of 11 or 12, but... Magic Shield. Shields augmented by magic are resistant to magic attacks and have higher stability. This spell makes it possible to challenge powerful foes with a small shield. And so now these spells Crystal Soul Spear, and Crystal Magic Weapon, as well as Crystal Homing Crystal Soul Mass. These are all spells that Logan developed in the time, quote-unquote, that quote-unquote passed in between us freeing Logan from that prison cell and now. Crystal Soul Spear. Sorcery boosted by the knowledge Logan acquired at the Regal Archives. Fire-piercing Crystal Soul Spear. These pale magic spears, sharpened through crystallization, are on par with the armaments of the ancient lords. Sorcery boosted by the knowledge Logan acquired at the Regal Archives. High magic plus crystallization, right weapon. Logan's trials were successful, and the crystal medium facilitated a stronger bond between weapon and soul. Homing Crystal Soul Mass. Sorcery boosted by the knowledge Logan acquired at the Regal Archives. Fire Homing Crystal Soul Mass. The mysteries of souls, crystals, and the sorceries are deeply intertwined. We need to buy all of this stuff to make them go hollow, right? That's a lot of souls. We might have to come back and do this later. So we need 50, 100, 106,000 souls.
Come again. The knowledge here is limitless. I will absorb it, then share it with you. Oh, hello there. Where have you been? Time is a resource. Let's delve in promptly.
We might as well spend the souls we have, lest we lose them. So we just need about, 41,000 for the Crystal Soul Spear.
Come again, anytime you please, for I too learn whilst teaching a student.
Huh. That's actually the first time I've ever heard that dialogue before, because that's something I've criticized Big Hat Logan and the Vinheim way of doing things for in the past, that it's always seemed to me like the Vinheim school has a very, as Paulo Freire would describe it. I've been saying Paulo Freire, and I know that's not how you pronounce his name, but I'm not sure of the correct pronunciation. But it occurred to me just now, as I was saying that I really should learn how to properly say the name of the person whose work has influenced me so profoundly. But I have in the past described the Vinheim way of doing things as being akin to what Paulo Freire called the banking model of education, which is consistent with what Logan said the previous time we talked to him, when he said, "Oh, don't worry, I will learn sorceries, I will absorb the knowledge, and then share it with you," as opposed to a co-intentional approach to education, which is the approach that I use not only to run my classroom, but also the likes of this YouTube channel and Let's Talk Lore, whereby knowledge is generated in the exchange between teacher and student, students and teachers. That it's not a one-way process, it's multiple ways. And learning is enriched when students are empowered to share their perspective, and when it's acknowledged that students have a unique perspective that the teacher necessarily does not. So it's interesting to me that Logan has dialogue which is consistent with both of those approaches. I will absorb it and then share it with you, on the one hand, which is the banking model approach to education, according to Freire, whereby knowledge is deposited into the student, and the student is just a mere depository, and the teacher is a depositor. And the co-intentional approach to education, which maintains that knowledge and awareness of the world and of the extent of the oppression in our world and the extent to which our understanding of reality is distorted by oppression and oppressive practices, that when you turn those objects into the subject of a critical inquiry, where teacher and student are working together to interrogate those objects, then everyone learns. And it's not just that the teacher knows everything and is teaching the student things that are important to know, but that both are learning in that journey. But I'm totally rambling. It's that time of the stream. So we got the crystal set, which I thought that Domhall had the crystal set, but maybe I was just thinking of the crystal greatsword. Again, it doesn't really tell us much. Where's this golden golem? Unless I need to... Is it necessary for me to go to Blighttown first? To give Siegmeyer... only purples? Okay, well, we'll come back for this when we finish dealing with Logan's quest line. There's so much to do here at the Duke's Archives. Stark contrast to, oh no, the previous episode where I had totally overblown how much we were, in my mind, how much we needed to do in the Northern Undead Asylum. Because I was originally intending for that to be its own episode. So that's the Crystal Forest. And this is the Crystal Cave. A tortuous place. Especially if you don't know what you're doing and where you're going. There are hints as to the path you're supposed to take, but they are very subtle. And my first time coming through here, I missed pretty much all of them. But here's a perfect example. And I don't think it's an accident that you're presented with this almost immediately after you enter the area. And you can see that, yeah, the, I guess, snowflakes from above are dissipating when they hit this invisible surface. I don't know how to explain that other than Seath knows a lot of things. Knows a lot of magic tricks, basically. So we have the moonlight butterflies here. Bright, moving, audible, demands players' attention. Touché. I'm interested in that trees, already established as a powerful thing in and of itself, are being crystallized too. So again, the moonlight butterflies here are passive until you attack them, and then they will mess you up. And the moonlight butterflies, as we learned previously, are creations of Seath the Scaleless. So what came first, the crystal caves or Seath making his dragon cave and crystals growing around it? I imagine that this was probably Seath's, yeah, the latter. That this was probably Seath's dragon cave, man cave, whatever. And although it is said, like, it's called a primordial crystal, which suggests that it was around, or it relates to the earliest. Pretty sure this is a single spawn. This is a gold golem. All the gold golems are single spawns. Gosh, and I still get turned around here. Because I know you can go that way, but I don't think that's where you're supposed to go. This is where all the crystal lizards are. Get wrecked. And over there is the blue Titanite slab. But we don't need it and won't be going for it. But there are many guides on the internet that can be found if you are looking for a way to get over there. One method I would recommend, without showing you specifically the path that you need to take, is using arrows to chart your course. So just before you walk somewhere, just shoot an arrow. And that way you'll know whether or not it's safe to walk that way. And as you can see here, I want to say that this is a soul item underneath us here. Oh, I hate this platform so much. I really do. I died here so many times when the Trash Man and I were doing co-op in this area. I'm reasonably certain it's just a soul item. In which case, screw that. Although I will grab the soul item over here. Soul of a hero is 10,000 souls. And now it's time to deal with the clams, which are among the simultaneously the cutest enemies in Dark Souls, as well as the most formidable and annoying. Look at the way they just prance over. Oh my god, that scared the daylights out of me. Oh no. Oh, I shouldn't have been patronizing them. Thankfully, you... I forgot that we had the Ring of Sacrifice on. No wonder our magic felt weaker, because it was the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring that we took off. Well, that was pathetic. It really was. Oh my gosh. Alright, let's try that again. A surprise ring save indeed. I'll take it though. I ain't above that. So might as well just draw their aggro one at a time and then deal with them that way, instead of trying to poison them, because that does take a long time. The way they shudder, it almost makes you feel bad for hitting them. And so you can see the skulls here that every now and then contain a purging stone. No. I want sauce from... How does that one see us from so far away, but the other one's just standing there? I guess this is the really observant clan. Oh, impart upon us your clan wisdom. So in addition to purging stones, they do also drop Twinkling Titanite. This looks beautiful. But before we go in there, we have a plan to set in motion. Oh, sweet D. Oh, where am I going? Oh, I should have waited for him to get closer. Get wrecked. Bequeath Lord Soul Shard, soul of the albino Seath the Scaleless, a fragment of a Lord Soul discovered at the dawn of the Age of Fire. Seath allied with Lord Gwyn and turned upon the dragons, and for this he was awarded dukedom, embraced by the royalty, and given a fragment of a great soul. Although just a piece, it will satiate the Lord Vessel. Yeah. Barbecued skinless dragon, anyone? Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, there you are. It's been a while. Or were you just here? This fascinating place defeats my sense of time.
To be fair, Logan, the Dark Souls games defeat my sense of time as well, in many different ways. There's several different levels and layers to that statement, so you're not alone.
But I can't remember the death. He undead. Where's it going? The other one first. I can't remember the death. He undead. Where's it going? The other one first. Come again. The knowledge here is limitless. I will absorb it, then share it with you. Who are you? Stay clear of my work. Curses upon you. How dare you disturb me?
Alright, see you later, friend. It's nice knowing you, I suppose. Thanks for teaching me all the sorceries I'll never use. Sage robe, traveling gloves, traveling boots, Logan's catalyst. Catalyst of Big Hat Logan, the great sorcerer and seeker of knowledge. Originally the same catalyst employed by the Vinheim sorcerers, only terribly strengthened over time due to Logan's use. Very powerful when used by one of superior intelligence, hinting at its S scaling in intelligence. Robe worn by Big Hat Logan. It is said to have been from his apprentice days at Dragon School, but it is so worn out no one knows what it originally looked like. Logan, who cared little for his appearance, no doubt ever bothered to change out of it. So he was wearing the same clothes from the day he became an apprentice, All the way to the present. That is disgusting. Gloves worn by Big Hat Logan. They are indistinguishable from the ordinary kind worn by travelers. And the same goes for the boots. Just terrible. So again, that Crystal Knight that was there was a single spawn, so we're not going to run into them again. Oh, getting frame rate drops like crazy for some reason. I do not understand why. Oh, what? Okay, I'm convinced now that they have changed the aggro ranges, because in my casual playthrough, I stood there right at the door and just stared at him. No big deal. Oh, I'm running at like 15 frames per second in my webcam too. But yeah, now apparently not. So I don't know what's up with that. Yeah, they could do that. What the? That was weird. I guess the room was still loading. And I don't think we can go in here and save quit, because I'm reasonably certain that because this counts as a boss room, it'll just spawn us outside again. So let's see. I'm glad it's not just me, Pacino. I think Theomini said, oh, okay, I guess it no longer counts as a boss room. Cool. Because insofar as it counts as a boss room, it would spawn us outside. So that's the Tin Crystallization Catalyst, Small Leather Shield, and the hat. Which, again, I seem to recall an interview with Miyazaki wherein he notes that Logan was actually supposed to be naked, in that he wanted to shed everything and become a dragon. But he was afraid that no one would recognize who he is, which to me seems really stupid if you consider the fact that if anyone gets him to this point, they will have done his entire quest line, so of course they're going to know it's him. Who else is this super powerful sorcerer that is buck naked when you just found his set in the spot where, like, in hindsight, that seems like a really stupid explanation as for the reason he's wearing his hat. White Dragon Breath, sorcery developed by Logan during his infatuation with Seath the Scaleless. Emit crystal breath of Seath the Scaleless. Although it no longer causes curses, what madness caused Old Big Hat to appropriate this frightful power of the ancient dragons? Big Hat, gigantic hat worn by the great sorcerer Logan. It completely hid his face, which led to his nickname, Big Hat. Famously antisocial, Logan used it to block out noise and people's stares so he could focus on his own thoughts, but it does not possess any special magic powers. Tin Crystallization Catalyst. Catalyst imbued in terrifying crystal magic, used by Logan after his fixation on Seath. Makes all sorceries incredibly powerful, but demands extremely high intelligence from its wielder, and halves sorcery usages. And then here we also have a chest containing another ember. The Large Magic Ember. Large Magic Ember. Ember required for weapon ascension. Large Magic Ember, a form of sorcery. Handled only by the Vinheim Magic Blacksmiths. The stream has been going on for 3 hours and 20 minutes, and the episode will be a similarly lengthy one. So that's going to do it for this one. So in the next episode, we're going to start by finishing Siegelin's quest line, as well as by going to visit the giant, blacksmith, and Anor Londo, as well as reflecting a little bit. Actually, there's an item that we have up here, a soul item. As well as doing a little bit of reflecting on Soul of a Great Hero, so that's 20,000 souls. So yeah, you don't want to forget that one. But in the next episode, we should also do some reflecting on how and why Seath was given the power that he wielded, and how he managed to commit such atrocities in the City of the Gods. Because one would think that for such things to be happening in the City of the Gods, that the gods themselves had to have at least given tacit approval. And that's going to factor into our decision in the next episode as to whether or not we're going to allow the remnants of that regime to live on, or whether we're going to do something about it before we go to Lost Izalith to deal with Sweet Dee and her family, to return home to where Dee became an abomination, and hopefully gain a little bit of closure. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you all very, very much for joining us, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.